Welcome to another tutorial where we'll be taking a look at how to simulate turbo sound effects inside of Unity. And before we go any further, we're gonna take a look at how the game sounds without turbochargers. So here's how the game sounds without the turbochargers. Okay, so now let's take a look at how we can simulate the sound of the turbo while maintaining the sound of the actual engine. Okay, so since I couldn't find any sound effect, what we're gonna have to do is make our own sound effect. So in YouTube, what I found is some cars, some engines producing the turbo sound only, without the engine sound. So if we take a look in here, we'll see that this is the actual sound of the turbo engine. So what we're gonna do now is download this whole entire MP3 from here, and we're gonna open up the Adobe Audition. Okay, so once you narrow down the part where you think that you can sample the turbo sound, what you're gonna do is make it sort of seamless and continuous. Okay, so what we got here is a sort of continuous engine and turbo sound. So we're gonna take a listen. So what we're gonna do is take the razor tool and cut it somewhere in half. Take the first part, move it across, and then blend them somewhere in the middle. So when we play it, we got something like this. That sounds like it is continuous and seamless. It doesn't have to be perfect, obviously. We're gonna take that and we're gonna bounce that into a new kind of file, and we're gonna filter that. So first of all, what we're gonna do is filter the equalizer. So we're gonna take the 20 bands, and what we're gonna do is bump the high ends. We're gonna apply that, and we're gonna go back to and we're gonna take that and we're gonna export it inside of Unity. The next thing we're gonna do is modify this audio script, and the first thing we're gonna need is a new audio clip. So we're gonna say public audio clip, and we're gonna name it turbo. Next thing we're gonna need is a audio source to go with the audio clip that we just created. So we're gonna duplicate that, and we're gonna create it _turbo. And now to actually initialize this turbo, what we're gonna do is when we start the sound, we start all these clips, but we don't start the turbo. So we're gonna start the turbo as well. We're gonna say m_turbo is equal to setup audio source, and inside the audio source we're gonna pass turbo. So that's it. That's how you create a new sound via script, obviously. The next thing we're gonna do is go into our fixed update, and we're gonna vary the pitch of that turbo. So the pitch obviously has to vary corresponding to the current vehicle RPM. So obviously we're gonna have to calculate that as well. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna say m_turbo.pitch is equal to, and now here we have to calculate the current RPM. So we're gonna say controller. So in this case we're gonna reference the controller engine RPM / the controller maximum engine RPM. So this is going to give us a value from 0 to 1, and the pitch is going to vary from 0 to 1. If we go ahead and test that, don't forget to drag in your sound. Okay, I forgot to set the volume, but if we set it manually, so we'll see that it sounds a little bit flat. So what we're gonna do is improve this formula in here. So what we're gonna do is, instead of saying mcontroller.maximum engine RPM, instead of calculating this, which gives us a value from 0 to 1, what we want is divide this in two so we get a value from 0 to 0.5. So to do that, all we have to do is make this inside of brackets, and we're gonna say /2. And now to get the value going from 0 to 0.5 to from 0.5 to 1, all we have to do is add in the value that we want. The thing that we forgot to vary is obviously the volume. So down here what we're going to do is mturbo.volume. So this volume has to correspond to the volume that is the high acceleration volume. And since all the turbos that we're going to put are not the same, what we're going to have to do is make this volume variable. So back where we initialize first the audio clip for the turbo, what we're going to do is define a range. So this is a kind of a fancier way of varying the volume. You don't have to really get into this one. So you can just copy what I did and save that. Okay, so now we have a new variable which is called turbo volume. So if we hit play, but maybe it's a little bit too much, so what we're gonna do is increase that turbo volume. Okay, so now we got a nicer blend between the turbo and the engine sound. And now for our final trick, we're gonna do a downshift audio effect. So what we're gonna do is obviously the same thing that we did with these. Once you create a downshift audio source, what we're gonna do is create a new block of code. We're gonna make it public, and all this downshift has to do is just to play a certain audio clip. All we're gonna do is play the downshift audio source, and obviously we're gonna have to sample a downshift or audio effect. So we're gonna take that again. Okay, so here's what we got. I'm gonna play it back once, and you can sample it if you want as well, obviously. What we're gonna do is make this sound go from a higher volume into a lower volume to make it sound like it's disappearing. Okay, that's it. Just export this, and now if we hit play, if we take a look at the downshift audio clip, we'll see that looping is set to a true value, and the volume is set obviously into 0. So what we're gonna have to do is change those. Downshift.loop is equal to a false value, and then m_downshift.volume is equal to 1. And now this is our automatic shifter. So this is the piece of code that is responsible for downshifting. As you can see in here, the gear num goes to --. So all we have to do is say audio.downshift, and now this should play the downshifting audio effect. And now let's make it play this downshifting sound effect when we upshift as well. So let's hit save. Okay, this is our final result.